I have an announcement.
Hey everybody, I'm Dane Holland.
I'm Austin Shazam Pfeiffer.
I'm Marcus. I am Electric Man.
I'm Austin Tiny Zent.
And we are Nerded Through the Grapevine, the podcast where four best friends gather weekly to talk about our favorite parts of past, present, and future nerd culture. And the spooky season just ended, I think. We didn't time this out very well, but for those of you that are wanting to extend the spook, welcome to our episode on cryptids, because we, for some reason, have a fascination about the idea of them, I would say is the best way to put it.
We have talked about them a couple times before.
We have.
I fancy myself as a true believer in some of these. Some of them not so much.
I fancy myself as a true skeptic. So we're right there with each other, but on the opposite sides.
Right. Yeah, we've talked about them before, but we have not defined them.
No, we haven't.
And so in order, how are you going to define something that doesn't exist, Marcus? Well, a picture on Reddit. That's what we're relying on here.
That's the father source.
Yes.
If Wikipedia is the mother source, Reddit's the father source.
Well, they don't exist to you because you haven't seen any of them.
Okay. Even if I had, I would question my sanity.
I do that already.
A cryptid is best defined as an animal that science does not recognize. An animal that may or may not exist, like Bigfoot, Yeti, or the Loch Ness Monster, obviously, would be a cryptid, but there is some confusion and debate as to what counts and does not count. So, in this little guide, this is the is a cryptid list. Unknown animals such as Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, the Mongolian deathworm, Kraken, the sea serpent, and any new animal that isn't recognized by scientists as existing. They could also be out-of-place animals like British big cats, phantom kangaroos, African tigers, Australian big cats, and any existing group of animals that are sighted in a new area outside their usual range, like an animal that's, doesn't belong, or even like an extinct animal in this next list, like the thylacine, ivory-billed woodpecker, the giant ground sloths, living mammoths, an animal that once existed, basically, but scientists believe is now extinct.
Yeah. I knew that. I called that today. I couldn't remember if we talked about it or not, but that's like I was talking about the Tasmanian tiger a little bit earlier today, just because I was going through, like, I think that, like, if a dinosaur or something that we know existed was still around, say like the Loch Ness Monster,
Like a chicken.
Yeah, chickens.
I mean more in like a literal sense as opposed to like this is what they became evolutionary.
Okay, it's like an egg got like frozen under like a iceberg somehow, and then when it thaws millions of years later, like one hatches, or just somehow they've managed to stick around.
I don't know.
Well, you combine them with frog DNA.
I was going there, but no, I would think that, say they would be in this isolated area that only that one specific herd could survive. I think that the herd could carry on for generations. It'd probably be weird, like inbreeding and stuff like that, but I don't know if it would be for real. But just, the thing, maybe it could be around, maybe Nessie's just this dinosaur generation after generation after generation. Hell, they've been reporting Nessie for 1,500 years.
Being the Loch Ness Monster?
Yeah.
So some are debated, like the Flatwoods Monster. Not sure what that is. The Hopkinsville Goblins. Don't know what that is.
That could be a people group. That's not necessarily an animal.
Okay, well, I'm just going off the Reddit picture. Okay?
I understand.
So any beings that don't originate from Earth, essentially. Some paranormal animals that are debated whether or not they exist, like the Mothman, the Owlman, Jersey Devil, and the Black Demon Dogs.
Jersey Devil is an unnerving idea for something.
What is that idea? What is the idea of the Jersey Devil?
I mean, it's not even anything that would be like what I would picture as like a devil. It wouldn't be, the demonic, scary, big horned goat looking thing that's like massive, and it's real skinny, real lanky, has a goat's head and bat wings on its back, and it almost looks like it'd be one of those little characters that are flying around in games that you see in the dark places, like the side characters. And that would freak me out more than it being a massive monster, because if it was a massive monster, at least you could be like, oh, this is it. But with seeing that, you've got to realize, oh shit, there's these little creatures running around everywhere that are like this. What is reality?
Well, and that one's the Jersey Devil is so popular and well known that the hockey team, the New Jersey Devils, like they named themselves after the. You said it's debated as to whether that's a cryptid.
According to this picture.
According to that picture.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure the Jersey Devil was proven as a real live animal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so
I know there was one of them that used to be a cryptid. I'm pretty sure that's the one, but I could be incorrect.
So that's the thing. If someone were to identify, say Bigfoot, it would no longer be a cryptid. It would just be like, oh, that's just some rare species of ape man.
Yeah, it's a new thing.
Some homo this or that.
And the fascination of cryptids, I think, is what interests me even more than cryptids themselves, because the idea of different types of animals or creatures that we haven't discovered yet, I mean, we're always going to be discovering new things, like especially in the ocean. So when it comes to any kind of aquatic cryptid, I'm like, sure, why not? Because we don't know what all is down there. But I think the fascination behind them, so like the Sasquatch, like Tiny said, the true believers, like where does the passion lead to? Like they're so like we had recently there was a Sasquatch convention or not a convention, some kind of gathering.
Yeah, it's like at the fairgrounds, similar to everybody's little square party.
Right, but this one revolved around
around the Sasquatch.
Right, and there's there people with like the stickers on the cars and all the like the groups and stuff. Where does that lead? Like if Sasquatch is found, if Bigfoot is found and it is real, is the whole point of just being able to say, I told you so, and then you move on? Or do you stay obsessed with this now real creature? Like, I don't know where it leads to.
They just want to hang out with him.
I guess so, but I don't think he wants to hang out with them. He keeps hiding away.
My theory on the Sasquatch in general, because I believe that one is one of the more plausible ones.
Okay.
I think it could be a nocturnal animal, which is one reason why it's very hard to locate and find. Yes, he's massive, but we've also not been able to be everywhere at once. And I think it's a very endangered species, so there's probably just a few left. So that's what I think. And if Tiny, saw Bigfoot, first of all, I would try to pet him. I'm not gonna lie, because I've got a thing for fuzzy animals. They're adorable, and they need love from me and other people, and not to be harmed. And I just want to learn about him. Find out his life, sit down, try to talk to him. He'll probably be like, "Why is this guy making weird sounds at me?" But I'd be like, hey, bro, I just want to love you and learn about you.
But could you handle the putrid stench that always comes in stories of Bigfoot?
Yeah. I worked at a college.
He smelled all the smells.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think that the immediate response upon the government releasing that they have knowledge of Bigfoot would be actually Bigfoot contacting a secret phone at my dad's house, because my dad is actually a Smallfoot, but due to them being able to blend in amongst the human beings, they aren't as persecuted and sought after as the Bigfoots are. So
he's definitely the hairiest man in 3 counties.
A bookshelf on my mother's wall of books would start just moving and shaking, just.
Hey, hello?
Ron, they found me.
I'll be right there.
Are you saying that your dad has something that could be called a foot cave?
Well,
no, it's like a secret. It's like a secret hideout, like the Bat Cave, but it's.
Oh, you don't like the idea of a foot cave? Of all the things that you do,
Of all the things that are gross that you do and the gross smells you make,
foot cave.
it
worst
was
foot
the idea
cave.
of my dad having a foot cave. It's just the crawl space under the house.
That's because you haven't discovered the trap door that goes even deeper.
It's just got Polaroids of people's feet all over it.
Oh God, is your dad Quentin Tarantino?
Oh no, wrong kind of foot cave. No, my dad it's just a phone, and then he would have to get the CSA involved, the Cryptid Society of America.
There's a lot of societies based around cryptids, and like even the cryptids specifically themselves. Like, because when I was looking up, because of course, you know, I was like, I want to look up some cryptids because I've not heard of most of them. Like you mentioned earlier, of course, Sasquatch, Loch Ness Monster, Jersey Devil, stuff like that. That's things that have been around for long enough and popular enough that I've heard about them. But let's see, the skunk ape of Florida.
Yeah.
If you've heard of the skunk ape,
That is another species of the Sasquatch.
that is what I eventually found out within the article that I had read. But it was first sighted in the 60s in Florida, and the story goes on to present. And apparently it's an ape-sized bipedal skunk thing that smells like eggs. And a lady said that it kept stealing apples off of her back porch. And every time she would call somebody to come there and check that out and look into it, they never could find anything. The National Park Service says that it's a myth based on Native American folklore. But the Skunk Ape Research Headquarters says otherwise, stating,
God, of course they do.
yeah, they said that it's a species of Bigfoot. So there are specific
And they know that how?
groups.
Since
'Cause
they've not been able to get one or take a picture
they
of one.
believe
Based
hard
upon
enough.
descriptions.
They believe hard enough.
Look, you're sitting with a member of the Bigfoot Field Research Organization.
Good, then we should be able to have
know?
a very spirited discussion.
Yes.
But the
I mean,
skunk
it's
ape,
okay if you disbelieve. I'm okay with that. I'm not here to preach the gospel of the Bigfoot.
but even though the skunk ape is supposed to be some kind of, relative or, relative kind of species close to Bigfoot, why do they look so much scarier, and why is there such a good picture of them?
Yeah, that thing that you're showing that
I
no
wanna
one can
see.
see.
Yeah, well, I'm just showing this to the group here, but I mean, it's a scary looking creature. If I saw that in the dark, I would
It's
probably,
Bigfoot.
I wouldn't be around to tell you about it because it would, I'd drop dead. My heart would
Well,
stop.
see, he squatted down.
Oh, so he's a
Sasquatch.
Sasquatch. Oh, I got
No,
it.
no, no,
yeah,
no.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
why he looks so weirdly shaped. Is he's squatted down because he's like looking.
Are most of, and I know there are too many to even comprehend the amount of cryptids out there, but are most of them that you've heard of like malicious in nature or scary or something like
Most
that?
I've ever heard of is just a story
Right.
of
Yeah.
where somebody sees them and then gets away to tell the story.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that I think we underestimate the power of stories.
For
Well-
sure. They can become a reality for some people.
Oh, absolutely.
If you think about it this way, animals in general, are they malicious or are they benign? What makes a cryptid any different than like a dog or a cat?
Well,
Those are bad examples.
Yeah.
Like a
They're
coyote
domesticated.
or a possum. They're just animals out doing their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Their intention is not to be malicious. Their intention is survival and procreation. So you can't really say a cryptid is evil or malicious or anything like that because it's just an animal living its life, man.
But then you get your ones like the Mothman,
They have rights too.
who is more of like the picture of on Reddit said is more of like a paranormal animal in the sense that a lot of times you encounter it after seeing some sort of light in the sky or some sort of ship, a lot like a UFO encounter, except it's just a big Mothman and a big brown furry man with wings. So it's basically Bigfoot in a UFO with wings.
Well, I mean,
Perfect. It's a perfect combination.
And he's like got
of a
some sort of
cryptid.
pointy hood, I think, too.
well, I mean, the
In West Virginia, I
Sukaloo
think.
kind of goes along with the Mothman. It's the same thing of a different side of the same coin. It's transdimensional, so it's not from this material plane. It supposedly has telekinetic abilities. Telepathic. Sorry. Now that one, I'm like, come on, man, you crazy. But there are interviews of people that you can listen to on YouTube that have been attacked by Sukaloos, and
that's
this one
wh-
in general is just
And
real
that's
bad.
why in America, when you hear about wild sucraloos or whatever.
What was that?
Sucraloo,
Sucraloo?
sucralose,
It's a Cherokee word.
Sucraloo? Sucraloo. So you've got these wild sucraloos going around hurting people, and this is America. So what do we need to do? If we come in contact with one of them, we need to kill it.
Shoot it.
Need to kill it
Only
as soon as
if
we
you can eat it, because you
kill it.
You have to use every part of the animal.
Which is
Study it.
Which is actually illegal
Study it
to
with my
do.
body.
Because in some states in the U.S., they've actually had laws passed to protect the cryptids that live in their supposed states, such as Bigfoot. He is protected, and if you were to actually be the first one to actually gun down a Bigfoot,
I would hurt you,
you would be fined $10,000 and spend time in jail.
as you should.
Worth it though, right? I mean, if you're a Bigfoot hunter, worth it.
I mean,
No.
it
I'm
would
not.
be worth it for
I'm
human
personally
science
not.
for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
No, you get a tranquilizer gun.
Sure.
Don't kill it, just knock it out.
If that would even work, what if it's transdimensional?
well, then,
Yeah.
then you're not gonna get a Sucraloo then.
They tried to get there's a guy who's consistently trying to get laws passed in Florida to protect the skunk ape, but they keep shooting him down every time.
I mean, they have stupid laws like don't drive around with an alligator in your car, but they won't protect a cryptid.
And his response to that was, what harm would it have done if to pass a law like that? Is the skunk ape in harm's way? Yes, no doubt about it. I don't know how he sounds, but I'm imagining.
It could be close.
I'm trying.
Probably.
And then you've got Champ, who is the Loch Ness Monster of Lake Champion. And Champ has laws that were passed in the 1980s to protect the species. So I mean, it's funny. The Jersey Devils got one too, but it's different than that. It's actually the zoo offered a $10,000 reward if you can capture it live and bring it in. So, but it doesn't say anything about killing it.
See, the same thing happened with the snallygaster. It's a dragon, basically, kinda, that supposedly lives somewhere in Frederick County, Maryland. And so there are strange early accounts in like the mid 1700s, around whenever the county was founded, in an area to where there were reports of a half reptilian, half bird creature. It was also said to have like a metallic beak lined with razor sharp teeth. Sometimes it had tentacles that would swoop from the sky and carry off townsfolk, draining their bodies of blood. And around 200 years later, there was a hoax by a newspaper to get people to read their newspaper more, that they were offering a reward for like the beast's hide or whatever, since it's been a terror to the people. And that one, the snallygaster, is actually one that Theodore Roosevelt tried hunting for.
Oh,
and
with the Rough Riders?
There's pictures of him to prove like his hunt for the snallygaster.
That's
out there.
awesome.
That's really not surprising because Teddy was all about, like exploring the unknown and what is it, forging a path and all of this other stuff. So why would it not also include cryptids?
Yeah.
So, the Tennessee Terror.
Okay.
This is a homegrown cryptid, okay? Not to dox us, but our podcast is based in and around Tennessee. So, the legend of the Tennessee Terror began in 1822 when a sea serpent rose to the surface of the Tennessee River as a farmer was fishing.
Sea serpent river. Go on.
Yeah. The serpent was so terrifying that the farmer died soon after from fear alone. Another story, much like the first, was told by the fisherman in 1827 who had been fishing on the river and was almost shook from his canoe by a bluish-yellow creature built like a giant snake. Over the years, a legend grew, and the Tennessee Terror became a giant 500-pound catfish named Catzilla.
That's not surprising. Around where I'm from, originally they've got legends about the dam that's active there. That oh yeah, if you go over there to the dam, look down there, getting the dumb divers. They were going down there trying to investigate, a wreck that had happened. They were getting knocked around by catfish as big as Volkswagens.
The dam divers?
Yeah, the dam divers.
The dam divers.
Going in the dam water underneath to search for some dam wreckage.
See, that's the aquatic ones. Those are the ones where I'm like, sure, why not? For whatever reason. I think it's just because the thalassophobia, I think it's called, to where the fear of the deep waters
And sea
stuff,
creatures.
and the sea creatures and the unknown down there. Now, what is like the idea of cryptids? You see things that are unexplained sometimes, like it's just like a weird thing, or maybe of an animal you've never seen in person or something like that. But again, like the fascination behind it, the whole like hearing one person say this story of this thing and then going, I believe you based on that alone. Like you saw this thing and then that story gets out and all of a sudden other people are seeing something similar to it. So then that gives you a sense of it is real. Like someone across the state saw something that was similar to this thing that was described here. So it's got to be real because these 3, 4, 5 people have seen this thing.
And then 1,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000.
You know, I was once called insane and stupid
Still are in some circles.
for claiming that I saw a puma in Tennessee. Not like a black leopard, like a panther, but
Like the shoes?
Yes, like the shoes.
a black. But I said it looked like a panther or something, but it was small like a puma. It's the black puma. It doesn't make any sense. Doesn't exist around here. Not going to happen. Guess what? People started turning in pictures of as soon as cell phones started to become popular, and you started getting cameras on your phones.
Pumas?
Large black cats in Tennessee, in the wild, that are similar to a panther and a puma.
Well, that actually has a logical explanation as to why they're there.
So if things like the big cat, like the big British cats and things like that, that's something that could exist, just it has no reason whatsoever to be there.
Well, also animals can sometimes migrate and things like, and that has an effect on the ecosystem.
That one in particular, the Jungle Book, was filmed here, and at one point, several of the large cats escaped. So breeding with indigenous life.
Yeah, because we do have large wild cats that do live in the hills of Tennessee. I think they've got
Bobcat.
Bobcats, mountain lions.
I was going for the mountain lion. I couldn't remember what it was called for some reason because I'm stupid. So if we were to find a cryptid, just depending on what it would look like and where we would find it, how would we name it? Because they've taken a lot of these and they've named them after the originator of the style, like Nessie. Nessie has given a name twin to Chessie and to Tessie and Bessie. Chessie is the sea monster from Chesapeake Bay that has the same kind of descriptors going along with it as the Loch Ness Monster. Same thing goes for Tessie, which is the Lake Tahoe version of the Loch Ness Monster. And it's been being reported for a long time in a lot of these places. I mean, it goes back to even like indigenous cultures in some of these areas. So
is that naming convention lazy, or is it more of a like honoring the original in Nessie, you think?
Lazy.
I think it's more akin to being lazy, but then again, this is a certain subculture.
Maybe it's
not
complimentary in intention, but lazy in execution.
Yeah.
Well, because here also in Tennessee, we've got the Tennessee Wild Man. Have y'all heard of him?
No.
Didn't he have like a television show that got popular for a little while? He
I
sold
don't
like
know.
knives and stuff.
No, this is a cryptid.
Oh, sorry.
Basically, it's Bigfoot, except more humanoid, like more human resemblance to him. With the smell and everything, he's actually crossed state borders and been seen in Kentucky as well. But I don't know. There was like kind of like an origin story for him back in the 1800s. Apparently, he was a circus freak show, like in a cage, like he'd been captured. But then eventually he escaped. And then that's where like the legend comes from. And, people continue to see him throughout history since then. I don't know. I just thought that was cool that we have like our own version of basically a Bigfoot in Tennessee too.
Well, it's just like the wolf people of Mexico, that have that full body growth of hair that's even covers their entire face, everything else like that. I don't know what they're actually called, but that's just
They're
what
called people and they have names, so I assume they're called their names.
Damn it. I was meaning
fluffy.
like the tabloid name and stuff to go along with it, because for a minute it almost seemed like something that would be a cryptid, but it wasn't. So what if they find these cryptids and they make contact with Sasquatch and it turns out to actually just be a human mutation?
Well, see, that's what I was wanting to do. Is we got to come up with origin stories for these fantastical creatures.
Oh yeah, yeah. And if we like, you mentioned like a smaller one would be scarier to you,
Yeah.
or something like. And that's one because I'd seen one that looked like a little one that would live under your bed, and so people would raise their beds and put like, I don't know, bricks and stuff under there to raise the bed off the ground to where the little cryptid creature couldn't get to you at night.
Oh, I thought it was so larger ones could live under their bed.
Yeah, that's for the more friendly people towards them. But and then you think like, okay, well, what's their story? What's their deal? And I know that's what you want to find out from Bigfoot. You know,
Yeah.
you want to meet him, be like, okay, why you hiding?
Yeah,
where you
hiding?
where you
What do
been?
you do? You know, how's your mom and them?
Where did you come from?
Yeah.
Where did you go?
Mr. Bigfoot, are you really Jack Black's father?
Also, can I touch you?
But then he takes you back to his cave, and he's got like this giant wall of like inscriptions and hieroglyphs, and he tells you like the history of his people and how they all died out.
I'm on board with that as long as he does not try to penetrate me in any sort of way.
Speaking of penetration, there is one that I found called the Papabawa of Zanzibar. Are you familiar?
No.
Okay, well, it's a shapeshifter, and it's said to create the silhouette of a bat-like creature when swooping down on its victims. And it's all about getting in that butt, too. And people fear its vicious attacks, but they mostly fear what it does to your butt.
So it's like a flying land-based dolphin.
Yes, basically. But you mentioned the stories behind them. Like we could easily just create a cryptid. I mean, if you got enough people in on it, you can create one, and all of a sudden there's a society that starts being made for it, and hunts become, common for it, and things like that. Like, you can just do that.
You mean like snipe hunting?
Like snipe hunting. Snipe hunting is something that's been talked about forever, at least around here, which it was a nocturnal bird that people actually go in the woods and hunt for.
Yeah, it lives in bushes, and you can only catch them in garbage bags.
But you can lure them in with the special whistle.
Yep.
I can't do the special whistle. Yeah, is that it?
Well, they make.
I don't know.
They make people will make and sell whistles, and that's something else with cryptids. Like, there's so much merchandising that can be done, especially for like the local ones, because people want to feel special, especially if you're from a podunk little town and all of a sudden you've got this unexplained animal creature thing running around. Now you feel a little more special. Or like, even if you think you've seen it before and somebody tells you, yeah, this is what that was, like, you're now part of an elite few that have had this one special thing happen to you. And it makes it more real for you, because now you're one of the few.
The merchandising.
Proud.
We're the town where that one little bat creature flies up your butt for the first time.
Feels like the first time.
You should send your kids to our school.
We've had 47 sightings of Bigfoot in the past 2 years in this county. We went ahead and started selling Bigfoot merchandise, started making a killing off of it. This one over here is if you want to be a legend, you've got big shoes to fill. And if he's look, you even see there, Bigfoot's got on a leather jacket, he's got his hair in a mohawk, and he's got on aviator sunglasses with mirror frames. That's my design. I made that on my screen print at the house, and I hope you like it. $45, please.
Here in the back room where the children cannot go, we have the Please Step on Me Daddy t-shirts.
If this wood's a knocking, don't come a knocking.
He droned off because he gave up on it.
I couldn't come up with something else real fast because Sasquatches have wood knocks, okay? This wood's a knocking, don't come up looking. I tried, okay? I tried.
Why is Bigfoot the one, though?
I think we crave an association with a missing link, something that is like us but also more ape-like, to where we can see that connection with our own eyes, to know that there's something else that's humanoid, that's intelligent, that has instincts of survival that we can look at and see, well, that could be us.
Well,
I think we already
do
have
have
that.
footage of a Bigfoot that helps.
That's my dad at the car show yesterday.
No, the
He's a
the
small
video
foot.
everyone's seen.
Oh, the one with the just the lanky walking, and there's Bigfoot.
And then the look over with the famous pose that even when people draw other cryptids, like of what the idea of what they think they look like, a lot of them that are humanoid in nature have that same little pose of the arms swaying and then looking over at the camera or at the person, just because it's so iconic. And I think you're right. I think the iconic part of it is the human nature of that one. I mean, as a member of the Sasquatch Society or whatever, is that a thing? Like, why is yours the most famous one?
Okay, look, my reason is really dumb, so I don't feel like I want to share it.
You don't have
It's
to
a very
share it.
personal reason to me. There's two reasons.
Are you a legacy?
Well,
You're a legacy, aren't you?
I have always said Bigfoot was my cousin.
Well, you have big feet, so I could understand that. But
Yeah.
would you have big enough feet to fill the shoes of the legend, though?
I would try.
The culture surrounding it as well. You've got people over in Scotland that are just obsessed with the idea of finding Nessie, and I, of course, watch nothing but garbage on TV. So I've consumed so many different trips under the water of people going and trying to find Nessie.
Well, I think you just hit on something important. People in Scotland, they want to find the Loch Ness Monster. People
Yeah.
in North America want to find Bigfoot. If we were in Scotland, we would be talking about the Loch Ness Monster. These stories are regional, and much like religion and culture, it is very much determined by your boundaries on the planet.
I would hate to spend time in Scotland, honestly, because I know that Tiny could never culturally appropriate, because he would start talking a little bit like them, and then he would never be able to speak again.
But no, I mean, plus here in North America, like was been mentioned, Bigfoot goes back to Native American mythology and folklore. So there's a long history of it on this continent, and I don't see it going away anytime soon.
Right.
It's one of those things that it's a special story in some way.
It
as
is.
bizarre as it is, it's just how it is.
Well, that's like the aliens have been a thing more since technology was becoming more of a thing. We started realizing, wait a second, there could be space tech out there, and visitations and stuff like that.
Especially when we figure out time and relativity and all that, and then that changed the whole game too.
Right. And before that, like you mentioned, I don't think. Well, I mean, there's alien like stories and stuff in folklore, like in Mexico and things like that.
Yeah.
With cryptids, it's grounded. Like it's a grounded thing. Like they're in the woods. They're hiding in your cities. They're under your bed
Or
Until they're interdimensional.
until the Sukalu.
Until we try to find them, and then they must be
There's
interdimensional.
always the crossover somewhere.
But what if for some reason that the cryptids were all interdimensional? What if the visitors
That would explain so much.
It would.
What if the visitors that were crossing over and opening up those thin little holes in the barriers between our dimensions, and they bring over, they've got the hole open for long enough, and all of a sudden just something wanders in while their ship's going to come through, and they're not paying any attention, and this giant hairy species that just is everywhere just takes a wrong left at Albuquerque, and next thing you know, they're on planet Earth prime here.
I imagine Bigfoot being like the Earth Guard of this like dimensional portal where all the other cryptids are hiding on the other side, and he's just really bad at his job. It's like, he hears a story of another one. It's like when Mothman shows up, he's like, shit.
Jimmy's at it again.
He's doing it again.
I'm just one man.
I'm one man-like thing.
I told him to stay out of people's buttholes.
Why is he so fascinated with their assholes?
Something very wrong with this guy.
Is it just because we're in the area that we are that I feel like most cryptids come from around this area, or there's a thicker density of them in the Appalachia kind of areas, or is there just as many in the north?
From my research, there's a lot more here because our populations are not as dense as, like, say, California. We're not as we're more far flung, very loosely put.
Right.
So there's basically what I'm trying to say is there's vast areas of unpopulated where there's lots of woods, lots of cover. There's whole giant ecosystems as opposed
we don't
to some
see all
places
the
more
time,
densely
yeah.
populated.
Okay,
Yeah,
which makes
exactly.
sense. Yeah. Do you think the culture of the believers, alien life or whatever, and then the cryptid believers, like there's a similar feeling there, right? I mean, there's like a handshake of I get it, man. Of I understand, and I feel like the belief of one should kind of help you into the belief of the other because of the unseen, the unexplained, the very few interactions with, and the stories. It's all kind of the same thing, right? I mean, as
Yeah.
far as like how these stories go about and how
I
like
would
everybody
say
gets
so.
obsessed with them, like it's a very the communities are similar in that nature. I feel like.
I think so. I think you're right.
It might have to do with the fact that, just like we're discovering those remnants of lost civilization in places that are being heavily deforested, maybe they're places that they're hiding, and the places that they're being able to keep themselves secret are being destroyed. So now all these things that are living in like this, this ecosystem that we cannot see and have not been seeing are having to be forced more and more to come out because of deforestation. So you're going to see a lot of these different ones that could be from similar areas, like the Appalachian Trail that goes all the way, from Georgia all the way up to New York. You've got similar stories from Bigfoot and different kind of Bigfoot species that go along with that, but it could all make sense. It's all in that same area, if that makes any.
It's all in the same area in the sense that it's unproven, undocumented, unstudied,
And all
But
very
then-
similar.
Right. Well, yeah, because like I said, there's kind of a lot of overlap between like UFO encounters and the Mothman per se, or whatever. And who's to say some of these people who say they've seen aliens aren't seeing something like a cryptid or whatever. That's why there's they kind of there's some overlap. Like I said,
Yeah.
like I said again, you can't underestimate stories, and especially human beings. The storytelling ape, essentially. Like we have to invent our stories. Like once something becomes studied and science fact, then it's boring.
Right. It's no longer a fun
we,
story.
We
anymore.
want the unknown. We don't really want it to be proven. We want to speculate.
Right.
I think that's where these things
because
come
then
from.
the Sasquatch gatherings, I don't think they would occur anymore once he was found and put into a research facility and
Right.
documentation.
Because then just
and all this
scientists
stuff like
and
that.
doctors
Right.
would
It's
study
like,
it.
yeah, he's real. Here he is. Like, and then do you still go on hunts for other ones?
Yeah, they'd be like, that's not the real Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's
the
not
one
the
that
one
I
that
know
I've
was
seen.
interdimensional.
Yeah. Like, how would that work?
I really
I'm
don't
asking
know.
you
Would
because
you
you're
be
in the
happy-
group. You're in the group.
I mean, I really don't know. Look, I'm a lurker, okay? I just get on there because
He's not as devout as the others.
I mean,
Okay.
I've got a sticker on my van, okay? And I lurk on the website occasionally when I think about it and
Right.
read Bigfoot sightings. So I'm not a very involved member, but that organization does also organize like hunts for Sasquatch. So
Right.
go looking, and they give you information about wood knocks and the calls that they make and that sort of thing.
But
also, I forgot your original question.
It's fine. You pretty much we're getting there.
Okay.
But the fun is in the gathering, right? I mean, that's got to be where the most fun of Sasquatch believers is like the community of it all. Like we all have this in common to where we all believe in this thing that there's no proof of. And it everybody else is on the outside of that circle, and you've got this community and the hunts and stuff and the societies and things that you get together with. Like that's got to be part of the fun, like part of the most of the fun,
Well,
because
yeah,
really it's
I
just
can
a bunch
see
of
that.
people going camping.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's a bunch of friends going camping.
Going camping with like paintball guns filled with mace.
Right.
Now, we've got a professional camper that's a friend of mine, Mr. Randy, that I've spoken about previously. If we ever wanted to actually go out on a search for the Appalachian cryptids, we could have a guide to a lot of the trails in the Smokies because he knows them.
But I couldn't keep up with that man.
No one could.
That 900-year-old man is bionic. I swear to God, he's a cryptid in and amongst himself.
No, he's just got I don't know, he's superhuman of some
is.
sort. But that in the Appalachian area, stretching up into Kentucky, you've got a wolf man who has been spotted several times since the 70s to be a mixture of fur similar to that of a bear or a gorilla, standing taller than 7 feet in height, and is believed to live in caves. He's a canine-esque mammal. Bigfoot's been spotted all the way from Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, all along the Appalachian Mountain area.
Everywhere, yeah.
So, I mean, you could find it, but eyewitnesses in all the different accounts, they share similarities to description, but not always the same kind of fur coloring. So you can get some that are having more of that dark bear-like fur, or some that are having more of that like mossy-looking fur, and then other ones having that brown coat. They've got a smoke wolf. It's a massive canine with eyes as red as the sun. One witness who heard smoke wolves howl and scream at night on his property, they described it as pure evil, and they were there to do nothing but kill them.
Even though they never do. They could overpower them in an instant, but nope, they never get close enough to end it.
Just like you walk outside and you hear a fox screaming in the distance. That's awful.
It's terrifying.
Well, I think part of why they get the rap for being mean and vicious and things is not necessarily from their actions, but their eye shine is different than the typical animal. Because most animals, they kind of get that yellowy kind of green, whereas like the Sasquatch, the eye shine is red.
Oh, his eye shine is red? I didn't know this.
So when you're out there flashing your light and you see like red eyes looking at you, you're instantly going to think evil and demon and, oh my God, I'm going to die. So I think that's part of where the bad reputation comes from.
And one of the variants from the Appalachian reports of the Bigfoot that were spotted, smacking it. Oh, I need this.
Get it.
The Bigfoot species that were spotted on the Appalachian area, they were dark fur with a green eye glow. So that's like a variant from the typical.
I think the fear and the evil and stuff is because it's unexplained. I mean, because it's unknown, so people automatically put this like evil thing towards it because it can't be good if it's hiding from us and making scary sounds, and we don't know enough about it. Because if it were good, then it would be fine being near people. But I don't know. I'm trying to think of my whole life. I don't think I've ever seen any kind of creature that couldn't be explained.
I have in my dreams.
Yeah, and I've been camping plenty of times, been in the woods, been in some weird parts, driving around. But like a physical thing, I don't think I've ever seen a creature that I couldn't explain, or that I could make a good enough story.
I would hate
people.
I would hate to see a grim. I would hate to see one. A grim is described as a supernatural style cryptid that is believed that they were created by burying the family dog alive in a cemetery. Would cause them to come back as a black dog with red eyes, and they would be there to protect the graveyard.
I will come back from the dead if I hear anyone doing that.
So, yeah.
I'll be a grim myself.
It's just like passing down granny magic. It's the same kind of idea, the same kind of
right.
that same realm of superstitious belief that, you know, this will work. That one of theirs was you bury the family dog alive in the graveyard, and then the red-eyed version of it called the Grim would come out and be the protector of the graveyard.
So are you saying that if my pupper, whom I love very much, passes away tomorrow?
Nope.
No, buried alive.
Got to bury them alive. Sacrifice
I missed
them.
that
Yeah,
part.
that's the worst.
That's
why I said I'll come back.
I missed that part.
Yeah, that was like
the key part.
That's the supernatural element to it, because they're sacrificing it by burying it alive just so they can summon this other stronger
I'm not
creature
doing that. I'll
to
kill you
protect
for
the-
that.
Yeah, I know. But I mean
if it worked, I might.
Well, I mean,
Damn.
If it worked,
that could be a way to have them forever.
but it's not going to.
I don't think it works Pet Cemetery wise. Actually, no, it does work Pet Cemetery wise, because they come back as the red-eyed hound of death, the Grim.
Do you think that as time goes on, and of course communication, we can have that with anyone, anywhere, and technology is increased in how well it performs, are there more or less cryptid stories coming about? Because I feel like there were a whole lot more whenever just, word of mouth stories, local things like that. But we can look up those local stories of across the country or across the world and see those folklore cryptid stories happening. Do you think that causes people to believe more in the cryptids that they feel are real because they're like, well, all these other people around the world are seeing things unexplained. Is that like a validation thing?
I'd say for some it is.
Yeah, I feel like that's part of it, and I feel like it makes the story grow some more because somebody else's account of encountering a particular cryptid or another could have slightly different information or slightly more information because Sasquatch, for instance, we keep coming back to that. You know, I heard many sightings before I had internet and all these things, and then one day I'm watching Hunting for Sasquatch or Searching for Sasquatch, whatever the show is, and they start talking about wood knocks and like doing this call that I'm not going to attempt because for one, I don't remember what it is. And before that, I had never heard of that part. It was always, you know, seeing giant, hairy, ape-like creature walking through the woods, and suddenly we're talking about them communicating with wood knocks and whoops in the forest.
But the word of mouth story goes away whenever there's like people can fabricate so many images of all this stuff now. Like then the old footage of the what I am assuming is a guy in a big suit walking through the woods with his buddy with a camera. Like now can be so much more realistic. But I also feel like there would be so much more skepticism now because of how much more information we can have and how we know how people can stage this kind of stuff. Like people stage things constantly for internet clout. Like
Truth.
So
Haters will say it's fake.
haters will say it's so fake. But I feel like now in the age of technology, we're even more skeptical because it's like, okay, well, if our current technology cannot get any footage whatsoever of this giant hairy man that's nocturnal, we have so much
And stinks really bad.
and stinks really bad, but like there's so many cameras like that can work at night and see within the woods and be like, okay, this is where I saw the sighting. There's a lot of people with money that believe in these things to where they could put forth all this money in the research. There are shows about it of all these hunting of these people, and nothing is ever found whatsoever. And this is a creature without technology that has just lived in the woods.
That we know of.
But
We don't know of their technology.
like it gets to the point now to where it's even less believable. Because I mean, I'm sure if plot me 70 years ago and then tell me Bigfoot's around and then show me some kind of grainy something about it, and I would probably believe it.
Yeah. Well, and we have much better methods to investigate things now than we did back then. Like that footage in particular has been studied so many times. They've analyzed, the width of its stride, the height of it versus its arm length, how proportionate or disproportionate it may be to try to determine whether or not it was a hoax. And we still don't have a conclusive answer on that.
We don't?
No, we don't.
Oh, I thought it would be
crazy. Well, the gait itself is longer than a normal human's gait, and the way that it moves is very atypical. Like people don't walk like this thing was walking.
people can mimic that though, right? I mean, there's a lot of
They tried
mimicry of it.
and they couldn't get it to look exactly right because they got an ape-like suit, they extended arms, and all these things, and and the footage they took with a similar camera to the original footage, they could not replicate it exactly as it was.
So for the believers, that is like this is the proof. Like because it can't be explained, this video can't be explained. It's real. Like it's been seen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. That's wild to me.
Yeah,
Like
it was
it's-
to me too when I saw it because I didn't used to, be like, I don't believe that it exactly does exist. I think it's extremely plausible. So just to,
Okay, gotcha. So you're not saying like that video is Bigfoot on.
I'm just talking about
The
me
video.
believing in Bigfoot in general. I think it's one of the most plausible ones, but I don't necessarily. I won't sit here and go, yes, he does exist. You're stupid if you don't believe me.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, there's a lot of the cryptids that we see that aren't way out there because Bigfoot's not way out there.
No.
I mean, it's just a tall human-like thing that's hairy and has big feet. that's not a wacky thing.
No.
There's wacky ones out there with like tentacle mouths and breathes blue fire and can jump,
Up your butt.
up your butthole.
Well, what about the
Stag
Kraken?
King, the deer with the person face.
Yeah.
What about the Kraken? Because the Kraken is a cryptid, but it's also almost like a mythological creature, I guess, because of stories and folklore that have been told about it for so long. But what if a Kraken was just a misunderstood species of squid that actually does exist, the giant squid? Like, what if that was just a misrepresentation of it? Like, what if something bad had happened, like this ship had crashed onto some rocks and there was a squid that was feeding close by, and then all of a sudden it saw what was happening and it climbed up on this rock and just so happened to have a ship attached to it, and they're like, this giant sea creature wrecked our ship, and it was just a giant squid.
Well, and that story goes across all the other like captains and seafarers and stuff like that, to where like there is already a fear of the unknown. There's already a fear of the depths of the ocean. And they're like, no, there's a giant squid that will wreck your world if you go out there. So they're like, well, even if we don't know if it's real, we're going to assume it is, because if we don't, it could kill us.
Yeah.
So let's go out there with the idea that, it's probably out there. And then, I think like seafaring people are more superstitious anyway with a lot
Plus,
of
think
stuff
of all
like
the things that they would actually see jumping
Yes.
up out of the ocean.
terrifying.
Yeah.
We could get away with so much shit if we were back in like the 1600s on a ship. Not saying we would survive, but we'd
No,
get away.
absolutely not.
But so, like if we wanted to set the whole ship on fire and survive on a small floating raft. So your backstory, what's your backstory? All you got to do is just look really, really scared and just say, the Kraken, the Kraken, and they believe you. You did it.
This man's ship was devoured by the Kraken.
Right. Well, there was also the siren myth too. That's not necessarily a cryptid, but
The siren, is it?
I don't know if it specifically
mythological.
falls under.
Mythological?
Yeah.
Okay. That's where that weird overlap, like
Yeah.
of the strange, where it has to be defined to the point of,
Oh, shit.
is it or is it
What if mythological is just a mathematical formula of cryptid times time?
I don't understand
I
what you're
don't
saying.
either.
Just you have a cryptid that then becomes, told about in stories, and then those stories extend on past a certain amount of time to where it becomes a mythos.
Right, kind of like Bigfoot.
Or
You come back to
evolution.
Bigfoot. I mean,
Bigfoot.
because that starts out with Native American lore, and they actually would paint pictures and stuff of him. So, that's basically how that happened.
So would that mean that a lot of mythological creatures could be considered cryptids by that standpoint?
You'll have to ask that Reddit picture.
the father source makes it very clear.
Yeah, well, it says like dragons and griffins and things are not, because they're just more mythological. But I see what you're saying. You're doing what I like. You're trying to deconstruct the folklore. You're trying to say, okay, well, what could they have actually seen that inspired these stories?
Because I'm thinking of like the sirens, and I'm thinking about the way that their beautiful lulling song
Sorry.
I just
was
felt
trying to-
myself being pulled towards you. It was weird.
the gravitational pull of the siren song, and all they're hearing is maybe like wind blowing through like this cavern of some sea caves, and they're traveling towards this beautiful singing, and they've been on the ocean for like 6 months, and they're dying, and and then they hear this sound, they follow hope, and they just crash into the rocks that were surrounding.
It was a witch.
My God, someone better call his family.
Well, I'm pretty sure if you was starving, thirsting to death, had scurvy and hepatitis, you'd hear shit too.
More than likely.
Yeah, diarrhea.
What if we go on the trope machine and we find a way to insert Sasquatch into a story of a random trope for a show or a movie? Because there's been like shows where Bigfoot's like the main character. I forget the name of
Harry
the
and
one.
the Hendersons.
Harry and the
Yep.
Hendersons, yeah. Where that's already been done. Or
And that
what,
movie
sitcom?
was great.
Oh, it was,
Oh, it was a movie
It was
or
a
was it a
movie.
show?
It was a
movie.
Oh, it was a movie.
It was a
Okay,
movie with
gotcha.
John Lithgow.
At one point growing up, my mother owned a car that looked just like the one from the show before it got beat all to crap.
Oh, that's great.
The big
Yeah.
station wagon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, baby.
I'd love to have one of those now.
I rode backwards in that thing so much because, the backwards facing seat.
Oh, I thought you were just sitting weirdly in the front seat.
No. I got sick every time, but it was cool because I was sitting the wrong way in a car.
Isn't Chewie just Bigfoot?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Technically, yeah.
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 Weird.
He's already there.
He's got a chest belt, though.
made his way to sci-fi fantasy.
What
It's
if
wonderful?
What if the deep secret behind Bigfoot footage was actually just Industrial Light and Magic in their beginning phases of making the Wookiee suit? like, all right, well, how's this going to look walking through the woods here?
Or no,
Save
somehow the Native Americans through magic were able to see into the future and watched all 3 Star Wars movies. And that's where the legend comes from.
So we have to look into Native American magic.
Thunderbirds.
And his howl,
That's a new
because
topic.
or whatever he does.
Thunderbirds were only like A-wings.
The moon and the Death Star.
Okay.
Same thing.
Yep.
The first random trope I got was Destructo Nookie.
What?
Sometimes a couple has supernatural strength or are just really rough, or for that matter, really large and heavy, but they still need to fulfill their sexual desires.
Oh, yes!
This is the result of them being stronger than their surroundings. The location they've chosen for their night of passion breaks up around them as they display their sex drive. By the time they finish their act, they're surrounded by broken timbers, falling plaster, rattling floors, and shattered furniture.
Hold on. Are you reading the description of you're going to want to bleep this next word, Dane? For Sasquatch, Bigfoot, because that is a book.
No, that's just a random trope.
And I bought it on Amazon.
That's too perfect of a trope for this situation because tall is a thing.
Strong.
Feet, people are into feet. Some people are into feet. Hairy, some people are into hairy.
I'm all 3 of those
And to
things.
see this whole thing that you are the collaboration of the thing that someone wants.
And nobody wants me.
No, they do.
There's
You just
gotta be
gotta find
somebody
them.
out there.
There's a society of women that are like, we cannot find the perfect specimen because
Well-
we need all this criteria
ladies-
met. And they go on hunts. They are looking in the woods,
Well,
and that's where the
You are a
problem is.
cryptid, Tiny.
You are a cryptid.
Ladies, I'm talking to you, okay?
Hold on,
Now,
I'll not listen.
if you want a large, strapping young man with large feet and hairiness, hit me up.
And if you're
Just
really
saying.
into the large hairy
Get on our
feet,
Discord.
you could get into, you'll never be lonely at harfutsonly.com.
So we knew that no matter what trope that you found, it was going to end up in that scenario, like of that one. Like it could have been any trope at all. It's going to end up with some kind of lovemaking involving the Sasquatch and someone else and the destruction of property. Like
Yeah.
it's inevitable.
Well, I think just when Tiny finally does have his long-awaited Sasquatch encounter, he finds Sasquatch and Mrs. Sasquatch in the bowels of their cave, destroying it, and he's stuck in there forever because
Look,
there's a cave in,
It wouldn't
and you
be
have
my
to become their
proudest
child.
Oh my
I feel like
gosh.
I'd be obligated.
And Tiny would write a love song or a love poem to the Sasquatch.
Oh, God.
I love your howls with all my might.
Or they just think you're the baby that results in their lovemaking.
Well,
It's instantaneous.
Your glowing eyes light up the night.
I could just imagine them making a makeshift like high chair for you to sit in, and they're feeding you, just like murmuring their little words to it. You're just crying, but you're happy but scared the whole time.
They just pick you up and they nurture you as one of their.
They look at each other. They look at each other and they're like, "Does he have?" Or whatever the Sasquatch version is.
That can't go on there.
No, that can't.
That was for us.
That doesn't go on there. Yep.
But instead of like flying the spoon like an airplane, they like just fly their, rock with the food on it. But they make the noises of the one that flies up your butt. And so you get scared.
Oh my, that's scarier than anything I've ever heard. A Sasquatch trying to make a noise that they think would entice you to eat.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What would Mama Sass say about that? Let's see. What would she say? Okay. nom nom.
We're just trying to make it sound as much like a helpless human as possible.
All this talk about Sasquatch force feeding me is making me very hungry. I think we're going to get out of here. Thank you for listening to our Cryptid talk on Nerded Through the Grapevine, wherever you're at, on iTunes or Spotify or Good Pods or blah, blah, blah. If there's a rating system, give us all 5 stars. Tell people why you love us. You can tell them why you hate us, as long as there's 5 stars accompanying it. I don't care. And then there are websites like Redbubble and Teespring. There are links in the description. You can go click on one of those, and you can go find T-shirts and all kinds of stuff with our not our pictures on it. We don't want you to know what we look like.
Just picture Sasquatches.
It's pictures of Sasquatches. That's all that the artwork is that I made. So enjoy those and buy them.
And if you'd like to discuss what sound a Sasquatch would make to entice you to eat, make sure you talk to me about that on getting... Wait a minute. By the time you listen to this, Halloween will be past.
Yes, it's over.
But another holiday will be right upon us, and that will be Marcus's birthday. So if, along with my discussion of what sound a Sasquatch would make to entice you to eat, you'd also like to wish Marcus a happy birthday, you can do so by looking up at Nerd Grapevine on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. Or if you'd like to donate a little bit to the cause and get a shiny holographic Nerd Through the Grapevine sticker, you can get on Patreon, look up Nerd Grapevine, and we will adore you forever for doing so. A little bit of money goes a long way, considering we do this for free, and Dane's invested as much as some people do in motorcycles. So we could create a loud rumbly machine for the whole neighborhood to hear, or we can just create a whole lot of noise for only our listeners to hear, and that could cause them to have a whole lot of
aggravation at all the noise we make and the fact that we cannot find most of these beautiful creatures. Also, you can find us on Discord. There's a link in our description. You can tell us if you've seen a Sasquatch or anything else. Just talk to us. Let us know things. We'll let you know things. We'll have a good time.
So if the Sasquatch...
I'm not finished yet, Marcus.
You made the look.
I know, but look. Okay, we're on the live uncut in irrevocably circumcised. Okay, Marcus.
And sad.
If the Sasquatch were feeding you, like I mentioned earlier, but then it just turned out it was just some grapes, what would you do?
I'm not hungry. I don't want them.
I think that's the sound of I'm full, mama.
No more grapes, Mama Squatch.
I don't want
No more grapes, Mama.